We're joined today by Beryl Sanders, head of grocery and retail partnerships at Uber. What excites me about this conversation is, one, Uber's been joining us on stage since the very beginning of Curbivore, so 6 years now. But the Uber Eats story actually goes back even longer than that, for a decade plus. And so we've sort of traced the evolution of delivery from restaurants to grocery stores to basically all of retail, where you can just get the entire world delivered at the click of a button. So Beryl, kind of walk us through that evolution.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Also, Jonah, thank you. These chairs are so comfortable, and so it's delightful to be able to sit in one. So Uber Eats is now over a decade old, which is absolutely amazing. I feel very lucky because I've actually been with Uber Eats for the full decade, which is exceedingly rare. I think I'm one of the only folks left in the business that have been with it for so long, and so I feel so lucky to have had this experience. For those of you who don't know, and I think everybody should, but rides obviously predated the Uber Eats platform, where you can call an Uber and go anywhere you want. But what actually also predated the Uber Eats platform is the fact that we actually used to have a service before Uber Eats where we would go into parking lots in 10 cities across US and Canada, and we would actually load restaurant meals into the back of Uber cars, and it was called Instant. And so really way back in the day, we were going to these parking lots and loading up this food, and then these drivers would drive around San Francisco, in my case, and deliver it to consumers. And that really was the first iteration of Uber Eats. But I think the thing that has echoed our entire journey is the fact that we are really on a mission to go anywhere and get anything. And so Eats was very organic for us. We were already delivering people to the places that they wanted to go, and we wanted to deliver the food that they love to them. And we saw the use case and we jumped on it, and it took a few iterations, but we got there. And I think that our grocery and retail story is actually very similar in the sense that we were delivering people food that they loved. We saw that they wanted to get groceries delivered that they love, and we jumped on that as well. And that really started in 2020, and then we acquired Corner Shop, and that really accelerated our growth in the grocery space. And then in the retail space, we started that in 2022, and it's been wildly successful for us, especially in the past year. We've had 1,000 net new global retail partners join us in 2025 with 50,000 storefronts in the US alone. And so it's really surpassed our wildest imagination. We're currently above a $12 billion run rate in gross bookings globally, and so that just shows you how massive the business is. But what I will say, the core of what we're trying to serve is the ability to go anywhere and get anything. And so how do we serve our customers best and really meet them where they are? And the sky is the limit for that. I think there will be even more use cases that we can't even think of that our consumers will show us that they want. And so lucky to have been here for the past decade and looking forward to a decade more.
Wow. And so as third-party delivery has expanded into all these other categories, obviously like the share of wallet, the share of mind in a consumer has expanded. How are you seeing sort of consumer behavior shift as it becomes part of their day-to-day shopping experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, look, I shop all the time, much to my husband's chagrin. I have 2 young kids. I shop when I am on my commute. I shop when I'm cooking for dinner and I forget an ingredient. I shop when I am putting my daughter to bed and she doesn't have the type of toothpaste she wants. I have the minty kind, not the blue sparkly kind, whatever, 4-year-olds. But what I will say to this group is that I think that piece of the instant on-demand use case is relatively new, but I'm still doing my weekly grocery shop, right? Like these things haven't replaced the need for a weekly grocery shop. And so the two go hand in hand. And I think that you're really seeing this when it comes to the results that we have. We're not replacing merchants' weekly in-store grocery shop or the people who order on their first-party delivery app. We're adding to it. And we really see it with the data, and this is why we brought on so many net new merchants. But we're really seeing the fact that we are, creating a completely incremental use case for these customers. And when we run these incrementality studies, we're seeing that almost all of these orders are entirely incremental. And so what I'll say to this group is I think the top-up use case is what makes us really special and what makes us really special to these merchants. And then what I think that makes Uber, really makes us stand apart from our competitors is the fact that we have multiple modalities and we have multiple lines of business, and we're able to really synergize the rides and the eats data that we have and bring it together. And so the concept of us, I actually just was talking to somebody on my team who was at a Home Depot QBR, and he forgot his charger there, and he had to order a new charger from Best Buy on the Uber Eats app. But he was able to do that. Or the person who lands at an airport and forgot their charger and they need their charger delivered, we're able to target those customers. Or the person that wants the food delivery at their hotel room before they get there. Like, those are things that only Uber is able to do, and I think it comes together beautifully with our Uber One loyalty program, which brings all of our lines of business together. And so again, it really is just all about our use case of going anywhere and getting anything and really meeting the customer where they are.
So if that's the customer side of the equation, what about the merchants? How are they basically evolving their operations to meet customers in this new sort of space?
Yeah. I will say my favorite part of my job is working with merchants, and I'm really not just saying this to this group. I think that they are so incredibly innovative, and I've learned so much from them over the years. I can't overstate that. I think the merchants that do the best are the ones that really understand what I was talking about before, which is there are 3 very different use cases. There's in-store, there's first party, and then there's the top-up. And so the ones that are solving for this are the ones that do it best. Like, the ones that really understand that we have a very specific use case and that it needs to be differentiated from their other channels. I will say, the ones that obviously put effort into merchandising and send us the best-in-class catalog files and are, paying for visibility on our app, those are the ones that obviously perform the best. But I'll say what Uber is responsible for is really making sure that these merchants are equipped with those insights. And so telling them, where their customers are ordering from, what they're ordering, when they're ordering, all of those things, like, we need to give to our merchants to make sure that they're showing up as well as possible. And then what I would say, to just add on a final point, is we're not just acting as a marketplace, like a third-party marketplace. We have a very large business, it's called Uber Direct, where we actually fulfill merchants' first-party orders. And for those, it's really important that we just show up as well as we can, because these are the merchants' customers, and obviously we want to give them a best-in-class experience. So orders that are accurate and reliable and on time, like, we really just want to make sure we show up for them.
So I think this audience, when we think about online delivery, we're mostly thinking about the sort of logistical side, goods moving around cities from a store to your door. But another part of the equation is like the discovery side. What used to be I'd walk down a main street, a high street, and see something interesting in the window. That all happens in your phone now. So how is Uber and how are your merchants sort of thinking about the merchandising when it's all just in a 4-inch square?
Yeah. I think a phone is bigger than 4 inches, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Not mine.
So. Okay, so what I'll say here is, obviously merchandising, we talked about a bunch. It's really important. We want to make sure that merchants are investing in it and thinking about it and all of the things. I think the other thing that I touched on, but is really important, is just our ads and offers business, which is, to your point, there's only so much room in this 4-inch square. I'm going to assume that that's the actual ruler size. And so how do you actually show up and make yourselves visible on our app? And I think that Uber offers some really interesting ways to do that. Of course, we have ads and offers on our Uber Eats app, but there's also, a lot of really great surfaces on our Rides app as well. Top of mind is Journey ads. You can see an ad now when you're in an Uber, as I did on my way here. And so I think that that's a really important ad surface that our merchants are investing in as well. I do think that the results are really there. We have more than 75% of our SMB merchants who are currently investing in ads or offers, and usually with an 8-to-1 return on investment. And so we're really seeing strong results. And a lot of that is because the user is going into our app with a use case. They want to find a restaurant to order dinner from, or they want to, order their groceries. The conversion is high because really the customer sentiment is there. I will also just say on the retail side, something that I think is really important that merchants invest in case there are any merchants in the audience, is seasonal moments. So, for example, for Valentine's Day, we did over 100,000 deliveries for Valentine's Day of flowers in the US alone. And a lot of those merchants who drove those deliveries, paid for ads or offers on our platform and made sure that there was, $5 off that 12-stem bouquet of roses, or really paid for that visibility. And so I think for retail especially, it's really those seasonal moments that are special that merchants can really stand out by investing in their own growth.
So I don't want to be sizist here, obviously, with all phones are welcome, but thinking about sort of large merchants, and I think it's interesting because they're obviously more sophisticated, they have more resources to sort of think about each platform. What does an Albertsons or a Sephora or a Best Buy, what do they do on a online delivery platform, and what can the world learn from that?
Yeah, I think those are three great merchants as an example. Obviously, we talked a lot already about merchandising. I won't belabor the point, but merchandising, important, please, if there's one thing that you can take away. But no, I think that I already spoke about this. Uber has a really special use case in the sense that we can very much empower you to order a charger when you land at an airport. I already spoke a little bit about that. But I think what Best Buy and Sephora have done specifically on the retail side is there are a few things. But the first is they've made items that consumers know very visible. And so you're much more likely to order AirPods, you know it, iPad, you know it, the charger brand that you know, and I think that that's really important on our app, especially because it is a top-up use case, and so familiarity is important. I think the second thing I would say for these retail merchants is playing into cultural moments, and so, if Rihanna's performing at the Super Bowl, putting Fenty makeup front and center. If it's Halloween, putting really colorful eyeshadow palettes front and center. Those types of things, I think, are really imperative for our retail moments. And then I will say the last thing is, I talked a lot about insights, but I think feeding into those insights and making sure that if items are bestsellers on the Uber Eats app, you're putting them front and center. Those things are really important. And I think that Best Buy and Sephora are both doing that very well and are just exceptional partners to us. On the grocery side, it's actually a little different. So what I will say on grocery is that what we're really looking when we merchandise is what items are you adding to your cart first, and then what items are you adding most often? And those are the two most important things when we think about merchandising. And ACI, Albertsons, is a great partner to us in that sense. They just ran a month-long stock-up sale where they really played into that use case. But again, I think for all of these, it really goes back to the merchandising strategy on our app is not the same as the other channels, and really creating something custom is exceptionally important. And then, again, just sending us the best possible catalog data, the most visibility, the most you can do on merchandising, all of those things play into it as well.
So I think for the urbanists in the audience, they might be thinking less about the sort of big box chain stores, but more about the mom and pops, the local shops that sort of make a city interesting, give the kind of color and texture to a place that people like living and shopping and exploring in. How can local mom and pops use Uber Eats? What is the platform as a way of sort of keeping a small business viable?
Yes, so you're not sizist. But no, what I will say is, well, first off, I know I've talked about how I've been with Uber for a decade, Uber Eats specifically, and I will say that the first year of that decade, we only had SMB restaurants on our platform. We hadn't even gotten into enterprise yet. And so I really think that local commerce is the core of what we do. I really believe that. I talked about this a little bit. I think something that makes SMBs really special is we talked about the incremental use case, but for SMBs, they're also getting an incremental customer, right? I think everybody's had the experience where they go into an app and they want to order something for dinner, but they don't know what they want to order, and you're ordering from a restaurant that you've never ordered before. And we're seeing the same thing on the grocery and retail side. And so again, that's why I think visibility and paying for ads and offers just is so important for SMBs, and we talked about that a bunch. But I will also say that the element of discoverability has really shown in the data. And so on average, SMBs that are on third-party apps, actually third-party applications make up 10% of their revenue on average now. And on the grocery and retail side, the SMBs that we work with most closely are actually liquor stores. And so I actually was just in New York and meeting with a couple of liquor merchants who told us that Uber Eats is now 40% of their total revenue because they've just invested in their discoverability and had so much success in our app. And obviously those are moments for me that, make all the late nights worth it because you can actually see the results tangibly in front of you. But what I would say here for SMBs is that we are really, as a company, trying to invest as well. You can see with our most recent partnership with OpenTable, where you can actually go into the Uber app and book a dinner reservation, that it's something that we're not only asking them to invest in, but we really want to invest in that discoverability and the ease of search on our side as well. And so I think it's two-sided, but I think that, for these SMBs, it's even more special because of the chunk of revenue we make up.
I want to sort of tie everything together for the final thought here. So the audience, we have some technologists, we have some policymakers. I think top of mind for everyone is one, AI as a sort of search and discovery platform, and then two, the sort of AV delivery bot, of which we have so many outside. How are you thinking about that, and how do you think merchants, policymakers, how do you tie that all together?
Yes. Okay, so first off, not on AI or autonomous, but I will just say on innovation generally, really excited to announce that we are rolling out returns on the Uber Eats app, which I think is just so important for retail merchant, and we're actually the first third-party delivery app to do this. And so we talked a lot about go anywhere, get anything. Now you'll be able to return anything. And so I talked about my 4-year-old a little bit. I won't belabor a point, but she recently had an absolute meltdown that I did not buy the shade of pink of pens that she wanted. And so now I will be able to return the wrong shade of pink and hopefully one day get the right one. But it's really exciting because obviously returns are such an important part of retail in general. And so the fact that we're able to make this so seamless on our app as we've made all these other use cases so seamless is just really important to us. On the core of your question, AI and autonomous. So first off, I got back from Shop Talk a few weeks ago. I will say AI was everywhere. I think it's the question that everybody is asking around the industry. I think that there's still a lot to be determined on grocery and retail and how AI specifically fits into this industry. I think that there are a lot of merchant partners who are doing some really innovative things. We talked about Sephora earlier. That's a great example. But what I will say is that the way that it, is most core to Uber is through personalization. So we've been using AI and machine learnings for a while, but what we believe that this will allow us to do is make everyone's app even more personalized and even more custom to them, which we're really excited about. And right now we make 10 million predictions per second, which is absolutely wild. So I think that, that will play into this quite a bit. And then I think time will tell in terms of how we can best partner with our merchant partners on this. And I think that there are a lot of ways that we're brainstorming that will be really exciting. I will say on autonomous, and we have a lot of our incredible autonomous partners in this audience. For us, what autonomous will really do for us in the delivery industry is I talked about making deliveries as efficiently as possible. And autonomous will really enable us to do this even more so. And so we're really excited about the prospects there. But what I'll say to everyone, to our merchant partners, to the policymakers, to whomever, is I think what's really important is that we all remain really flexible. I mean, if you think about where we were last year, it's obviously both of these spaces have changed so much. I think that will be true next year as well. And so I think as flexible as we can be and as innovative as we can be and as fast as we can be, everybody will end up winners. So.
Thanks so much, Beryl.
Thank you, Jonah.